Hi there, this video is for folks who work as software engineers in big tech firms. I believe that there is a certain kind of information that you're not aware of, which if you do know, then it's going to be better off for you in the long run. I have myself worked in the big tech for quite a while, so I am aware of the context that I am sharing with you. With that being said, let's get started. So the thing that we want to talk about today is the software tool stack that you use when you are working as a software engineer. Now, if you're working in a big tech firm, you would have realized, and I want you to recall this as you watch this video, the kind of tools that you use to build your software. I'm talking about the machine that you use, I'm talking about the servers that you use, the operating systems that run on it, the version control mechanisms that you use to write your code, the IDE that you use, how that code pushes into, let's say, the dev environment, the staging environment, the production environment, etc., etc. And I want you to map that out and see that what are the tools that you use are completely tied to the organization that you're working for. Generally speaking, what ends up happening is that if you're working in a big firm, the tools that you use as a software engineer, many a times those tools are proprietary tools that you don't own. Point being that if you leave the firm and go to some other place, then you won't be able to carry the tool stack that you were earlier using. For example, many companies, especially let's say Facebook, for example, or Google, for example, they have their own version control system. I know folks who worked at such firms and have never used Git. Git is the default version control mechanism that most companies, most people use in their day-to-day lives. And this is not to say that what the internal tool stacks that these companies have are not good. They are absolutely fine, and they were built for a specific reason inside that company. But if you try to change companies later on, it does get difficult. And I want the principal engineers who might be watching this video, they can comment on this fact. But then in most companies, you are expected to churn code. You are expected to write code, even if you are joining as a software engineer at, let's say, staff level. Principal engineers, we can still sort of agree, disagree whether what are the responsibilities, the coding might or might not be involved. But generally speaking, and I'm assuming that that's what most folks want to do, is write code. So in that sense, if you are not, let's say, take for example somebody, and it might be the case that you are one who's watching this video, you're one of those persons who worked in big tech only for, I don't know, maybe like 10 years. Then all the tools that you know of are completely tied to the organization that you are working for. And when you do switch companies and they are smaller firms rather than, again, being a big tech which has their own proprietary tool stack, then you are at a disadvantage in some sense, because most companies care about how fast, how efficiently can you write code, can you produce code, can you produce the software, not just code. Like writing code is just like one part of things. In that sense, if you try to map out the software stack that you use today as a developer, the dev tools that you use, and try to see what the open source world uses or the world uses in general, which you can use outside of your organization. Git, for example, Linux, for example, Kubernetes, for example. These are the tool stacks that if you do end up learning, then these are transferable skills. Anywhere you go, the abstractions remain the same for you. I know folks who are great software engineers, and they might be senior software engineers, but have never really worked with, for example, Linux. Now, and I know that this is sort of like a controversial topic, in a sense that companies such as Google, for example, say that, oh, we don't hire software engineers, we hire computer scientists, and computer scientists don't really need to be devoted to one stack. And I agree with that. That's the right intention with which you would want to hire software engineers and like computer scientists in general. But there is a trade-off here. Like, if you do know Linux, if you don't know Git, if you know a programming language that you just completely is loaded in your memory, then in that sense, you can go ahead and not worry about those things. It's present in your subconscious for that matter, and you won't have to think about these things. So my only intention of making this video is for folks who worked in big tech and try to map out what exists as open source solutions or just like open solutions that most folks use in the industry, and try to use that. Maybe try to see how Git works, try to experiment with it, try to set up GitHub Actions, for example, because that's how most companies try to run their CI/CD pipelines and things like that. And please, for the love of God, like, try Linux. And I'm not saying that's just to be a geek, but if you're calling yourself a senior software engineer or a staff engineer, you should learn Linux. Every software that runs as a server uses Linux, so you should be in a position where you can log into a server and try to figure out things and see what's wrong, what's not wrong. And I mean there's so many operating systems, right? There's Mac OS, there's Windows, there's Linux, there's many distributions of Linux, there's FreeBSD. You want to choose something that you can rely on and then almost everybody uses, so that that information becomes part of your base background that you have, and then you can build on top of it. So go out there, try to see what tools your company uses, check out which ones of those are proprietary tools, map them out to open tools that exist, try to tinker with them and see to get a hang of it, so that next time if you're changing companies, you can at least show that yes, you do have experience with Git, you do have experience with Linux, you do have experience with Kubernetes, etc., etc. Those are open source solutions, and you can get things done, because at the end of the day, that's what a software engineer does. You build software that runs. And yeah, I hope you got something out of this video, and we're going to make more such content. We're just getting started, so please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.